McDonald's is a place to rock.
Hi guys, welcome to week 6. First of all, this week I gave you guys some extra time to complete some things in BOS2. Actually, because of an error I made, I mixed up the chapters because I wanted them to go in a different order, but the chapters that I want you guys to read this week, 7 and 8, actually had to do with two of the challenges from BOS2, challenges 3 and 4. So I'm going to give you guys another week with BOS2. Those of you who already turned that in, sorry about that. Hopefully you can go back and revise those if you think you need to. Reread them after you reread your challenges you turned in, after you read the chapters and make any revisions you want, and then resubmit another copy. If you don't want to do that, if you already read that chapter, those two chapters, that's fine. I'll just start grading those after next Sunday at 11:59. But if you want me to go ahead and grade yours, send me an email and I'll go ahead and grade what you submitted. Also, extended the period for discussion for last week's discussion until tonight, Monday at 11:59, to give you guys some extra time with that. Let's see. Also, BOS 3 is coming up pretty soon. March 2nd is the due date for that. So a couple of things about that. One thing that I always notice that people kind of freak out about and maybe just don't do because of the time constraints is the instructor interview. I'm going to have you guys do an instructor interview in that so you can get to know your professors a little better and get in the practice of talking to your professors like they're normal folks. And I think that's a pretty important assignment. So I want to go ahead and give you guys a heads up. If you don't do that for any reason, you won't get the points for that, of course. So I want to give you time to go ahead and contact a professor, go ahead and set up a time to do that. And for some reason, a lot of people, the last time I taught this course and had this assignment, said I couldn't get in contact with my professor. I couldn't drive to campus. But in the directions, if you read the directions, you'll see that you can interview them in any way, including calling them on the phone, emailing them, etc. I'd rather you have a conversation with them of some kind, so talking with them on the phone probably would be the best thing. But if you can't do that, if you can only email, do that. So, and I've got a couple of questions for you guys there, so you don't have to necessarily come up with a lot of questions. But also, the one thing I want you to do is come up with at least one question that you have for the professor that doesn't concern the ones that I have listed for you. Okay, so this week we are reading Chapter 7 and 8. And Chapter 7 is on memory and studying. It's going to be things, the important thing I like in the chapter is the information processing model. I have an education background, so that's how, in terms of psychology, we learned about memory in that way. There are lots of other theories on memory and how people learn and how people remember. This is just like a basic overview. This is not my favorite chapter because I have a background in this. It's a really basic chapter. Some of the things I think are kind of silly to include. One thing people are crazy about is flashcards, studying with flashcards, using flashcards, which is one reason I don't agree why they included it in there. Everybody's done that. Everybody knows about flashcards. It's nothing new. So hopefully when you do your discussion questions and you do your BOSs for those sections, you don't pick flashcards. But it's okay if you do, but try to pick something that it's different that you haven't used. So this chapter is really about metacognition, and I think they've mentioned that in other places in the book, but metacognition is just thinking about your thinking. And that's one of the important things about the chapter. It's kind of introducing you to the power of thinking about how you go about thinking about things to make your thinking more efficient and more valuable. The information processing model is a big, knowing about that and knowing how your memory works and how things move from short-term to long-term memory is really important. And hopefully, upon reflecting on that particular model and some of those other keys in there, the kind of the beige areas that say key 1, key 2, or whatever in the chapters, those kind of illustrate that. And if you reflect on those things and the study techniques that they provide you, like the flashcards, hopefully you'll realize that certain techniques are good to use at certain times. So think about that while you read that. Chapter 8, let's see, Chapter 8 is test taking. No, again, not one of my most favorite chapters, but you may find it really useful in terms of thinking about different strategies for different tests. I don't really like testing a whole lot. This class is not really geared toward testing in terms of testing on like multiple choice tests and fill in the blank tests, paper tests. We're not really into that in this program. We're more about applying things to real world type situation scenarios for learning, to test your knowledge on something rather than having you sit down and fill in some bubbles. But you do have to sit down and fill in bubbles in a lot of other classes to show that you've learned something. So hopefully this will help you give you some ideas and strategies about how to go about doing that a little bit better, more effectively. But that's pretty much it as far as I can think of for you guys. So do your BOSs, do your reading. Remember, go ahead and set up your interview for BOS 3. Email your professor, call your professor, talk to one of your professors after a class if you have a face-to-face class, and set up that interview time. A lot of professors just do it right after class. During office hours, every professor has office hours. Set up an appointment. It's part of our jobs to talk to you guys. So get that done. And do your BOS 3. That's on the BOS 3. Turn in the BOS 2s next Sunday at 11:59. That's basically it. And I should post, you've got a couple other major assignments in this course. The capstone presentation, I've been kind of thinking about ways to modify that. So I'm going to post that probably sometime this week. That's not due until a very, very last week. I will send out probably a presentation time chart, a register chart of some kind, so you guys can register for times to present that. Letter to a new student, you guys are already familiar with that a little bit, but also the behavior change project, and I'll have those things posted probably this week, so you can go ahead and look at those and maybe be thinking about those in the next couple of weeks. But we're on discussion 5, week 6. So basically this is our last next week will be our last real week as a class. We'll have 2 chapters to read next week, 1 more discussion post next week, and then after that, it's really time you're going to be working on your projects. So after next week, it should be a breeze. So one last time to go over, put in that effort, and do your discussions, do your reading, and get it done. Well, that's all I have to say. As always, if you have anything else to add or any questions, just ask me on the FAQ discussion board, preferably, or shoot me an email if you feel like you can't post there. But probably I'll tell you to post on the FAQ discussion board, so do that. That's it. Have a good week.